I'm not sure if I really like this show. I don't really know what to even say because I feel like it was a traditionally well wrestled AEW pay per view. I think the main event was good, but to get to the main event was a little painful. I think we're running out of time with the Young Bucks. I've been giving them the benefit of the doubt because they're fantastic wrestlers, but I think the well has run dry a little bit. Pretty unexpectedly because I've been a huge fan of the Young Bucks lately. I understand that that is a freezing cold take in this space. A lot of people are very upset with the Young Bucks and their AEW World Tag Team Championship reign. I've personally been enjoying it. I enjoy the Young Bucks as heels, and I think they're doing a great job as heels right now. But like I said, from a personal level, all of a sudden the well has run dry with the Young Bucks for me personally. Let's get into the summary and analysis of WrestleDream. I will try to formulate my thoughts on the show. I don't think I liked it very much. Let's just get into it. Before we get to the main card, we have the 0 Hour, where Brian Cage defeated Atlantis Jr. for the Ring of Honor World Television Championship. Brian Cage will make a fantastic Ring of Honor World Television Champion. It's unfortunate that that doesn't mean shit these days. It's unfortunate that Ring of Honor suffers and exists to drag AEW down with it. I don't think this should be the case. I think the pairing of Ring of Honor and AEW under the same ownership is a perfect match, a perfect pairing. They're just finding ways to make Ring of Honor so irrelevant and then placing it on these AEW cards, and it doesn't mean anything. Okay, I'm not going to get carried away this time. Let's get into the main card of WrestleDream. Objectively, it was a great pay-per-view. It was a great 4 hours of wrestling. Subjectively, maybe it just didn't catch me at the right time, the right day, the right hour, or whatever, which is pretty rare. I try to keep a pretty open mind and stay positive to be able to enjoy the abundance of pro wrestling that it exists today. It just keeps pumping out every week. I don't know, man. I think WrestleDream was just a little too much for me on this random day for some reason. Let's get into it. The show opens up. Switchblade Jay White taking on Hangman Adam Page. And we are in Washington, the home state of Swerve Strickland. So we get a lot of swerve chance during Hangman's match here. But we get some really cool spots, man. This arguably could be a match that happens on Dynamite, but I'm going to let it slide with this one because Hangman versus Switchblade was a fantastic match. I'm not going to complain about this one being a pay-per-view match at all. That is not going to be the case for some of these matches later on the card. It's a damn near 10-match card, 9-match card. Anywho, Switchblade and Hangman was a perfect opener in my opinion. Right? We see Jay White eat a Death Valley driver on the ring apron. It looks painful as heck. We see him take 2 power bombs right at ringside. Hangman puts Jay White up, gives him a power bomb on the ring apron, and then also gives him a power bomb on the steel steps. Boom, boom. Crazy. Good stuff, man. Great match. I mean, could they have done a better build? Could they have, made me a little bit more excited for the match? Yes, I think the build for WrestleDream in every match except for the main event was pretty dang mediocre. And I think that's what really did it for me in a negative way with WrestleDream. I just don't think these matches had great build. And then we get Hangman getting his knee dropped onto the side of the entrance ramp. That's another spot that I remember that looked really painful. These guys put the work in. These guys put on a great match. And surprisingly, Switchblade defeated Hangman to open up the show. Clean as a whistle. So I guess we're not getting a Hangman push. We're not taking advantage of Hangman's momentum after finally defeating Swerve in their third match at the last pay-per-view, All Out. And that's all good, I guess, pairing him with Jeff Jarrett right after, the steel cage match with Swerve was already an indicator that this wasn't really going anywhere for Hangman. And honestly, now that I look at it, now that I've seen it go down, we're a month removed. Hangman doesn't really need to win every match to keep his relevance. He's a madman. He's lost it. Anybody he feuds with, he can hold his own in at this point. He's like a carrying cross of sorts. Um, I would have liked to see Hangman get the win here, but if we're going to build Jay White up, then I'm not going to complain at all because Jay White definitely deserves it. If we're going to, I don't know, give Jay White a push in the Continental Classic in a couple of weeks, then I think this is a good direction and this was a good outcome of the opening match for WrestleDream. Yeah, we'll see. I think this feud between Hangman and Switchblade will continue, and maybe we'll see Hangman win the second match. Who knows? But this was a fun, entertaining opener. Let's get on to the second match on the card. We had Mariah May defend the AEW Women's World Championship against Willow Nightingale. This is fantastic. This was a match I was actually pretty excited for. I think Mariah May's been doing a solid job with the Women's World Championship. Don't get me wrong. She still has a lot to learn. I'm not going to say she's green, but she's not fully developed into the star that she can become, but she's on her way. And this championship reign of hers is a facilitator for such. Willow Nightingale is a fantastic wrestler. Let's get it. This is going to be an awesome match. And it was. Mariah May keeps a slow pace, when she's on offense, that, she's a heel. That's what she does. That's what she does in most of her matches. It's all good. It's part of the show. But Willow Nightingale is able to keep this match entertaining with a fast-paced offense whenever she's able to counter. And then we get May reversing our top rope power bomb into a Hurricane Rana, which ultimately leads to hitting her finish. And Mariah May retains the AEW Women's World Championship against Willow Nightingale. Both women look fantastic in this match. Great match. Really good match. When I talk about the negativity that I felt for the WrestleDream pay-per-view, these first two matches were not a part of that. They actually got it rolling and got me into the mood. But 4 hours is 4 hours. And I think at the end of the day, maybe that's the problem. Especially when you fill this WrestleDream main card with too many TV matches. Too many of these matches, at least 4 of them, were TV matches. I know I'm paying money, we're paying money to watch WrestleDream, but at the end of the day, I'd rather have 3 hours, 6 to 7 matches than 4 hours, 9 matches. And then most of those matches I could have seen on TV. I was going to get to that point later, but it comes out now. Whatever. Let's get to the third match. Again, this third match, I'm not going to sit here and say that it was part of the problem because it wasn't. And it was Jack Perry defending the TNT Championship against Katsuyori Shibata. I think they handled this match well. I think Jack Perry took some receipts in this match. I think he paid his dues in this match, being in the ring with Shibata, right? Getting a little strong style ass whooping in. He did retain, but we'll get there. Perry catches the ring apron when taking a suplex ringside. It looked nasty, man. That's part of it, man. That's part of AEW, man, is they really get out there and beat the shit out of each other, man. They cut corners in a bad way to really hurt each other. A lot of people probably don't appreciate that. It definitely flies in the face of keeping your wrestlers safe. To me personally, it doesn't bother me too much. But yeah, man, you see Jack Perry catch the ring apron when at ringside, and it looks nasty. Shibata flips Perry into a sleeper hold, doesn't realize his shoulders are down for the 3 count. Jack Perry retains, but also takes an ass beating. Shibata continues to look strong. It's really a strange finish. We knew Shibata wasn't going to beat Jack Perry here. Damn near nobody's going to beat Jack Perry except for the guy who came out to confront Jack Perry after his championship defense, which was Daniel Garcia. And what Daniel Garcia does is he prevents a post-match beatdown that Jack Perry is about to give Katsuyori Shibata. But Daniel Garcia is soon followed up by an entrance by MJF. I guess we're not done between MJF and Daniel Garcia. Or are we? Because as MJF is about to hit Daniel Garcia with the Dynamite Diamond Ring, After Jack Perry hits him with a cheap shot due to distraction, we get Adam Cole returning during this MJF promo that he ends up cutting. Way too booked. Maybe this was part of the problem because I know AEW likes to basically squeeze 3 segments into one sometimes. Not all the time, thank goodness, but sometimes they just do too much. They'll do a championship match and then they'll do a heel turn after the match and then they'll do something else after the heel turn. This is a case where, you have 3 different guys interrupting after the match and it's just a little too much. I get that you want to keep the crowd hot and excited. Maybe there's nothing wrong with it. Maybe I just personally don't enjoy it, and I'll admit that. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to sit here and say AEW is washed or say anything like that. I'm going to sit here and say, hey, I enjoy the AEW product, but sometimes they be trying to fit too much into one segment, and that's the truth. I'll be saying the truth. Anyway, it looks like we're going to get babyface Adam Cole versus heel MJF. Everybody is where they started at in the beginning of the Adam Cole MJF story over a year ago. And I don't know how I feel about that. I'm not really going to give my opinion on it right now. I'm just going to say that the segment felt too overcrowded, and I'm sure a lot of you can agree with me. Maybe some of you were in the arena attending, watching the show, and, it seemed awesome because you're there and it's hype and the show just started. It's only the 3rd match, but big Adam Cole return. Maybe if I was in the arena, I would have liked it. I would have been hype about it. But, sitting at home, I was kind of like, why are they putting 3 segments into one here? No need for all that. Maybe they're trying to make up for the fact that there are too many TV level matches on this pay-per-view card. But anywho, I can't wait to talk about and witness what we're going to do with MJF and Adam Cole. Because we had the whole thing where MJF slowly turned face and then Adam Cole betrayed him and turned heel. And now we're supposed to cheer for Adam Cole again, which I don't think is going to be very justifiable. Unless they find a unique way to do it, man. We'll find out. Nonetheless, it looks like Daniel Garcia and Jack Perry are on a collision course. Hopefully that match isn't on Collision and we could see it on Full Gear next month. I think Daniel Garcia is one of the only guys that will dethrone Jack Perry for the TNT Championship. And I think the Young Bucks are getting ready to drop the tag belts as well. So it looks like the Elite, all in all, are just getting ready to drop all their championship belts. I bet Okada drops the championship at World's End after the Continental Classic. We'll find out, man. Maybe Okada surrenders the Continental Championship ahead of the ahead of the tournament. Too many trademarks, too many gimmicks. I get lost in the sauce. All right, man. This match, this is where things got a little derailed. The 3rd match, Jack Perry and Shibata. And that is of no fault to Jack Perry or Shibata. They had a solid match. It wasn't an amazing match. It was solid. It was fine. It was just the Adam Cole, the MJF, the Daniel Garcia. We'll wait and see how all that plays out in Dynamite. I will say I'm excited to see those 2 storylines play out. But as of right now, man, I just think it was too much from a segment standpoint. But what we're about to get into right now, arguably, may have been match of the night for some of you. I'm not going to say it was match of the night for me because I'm not sure. Because this and the main event were 2 fantastic matches. It was Will Ospreay defending the AEW International Championship against Ricochet and Konosuke Takeshita. Really fun match here. There were only about 2 to 3 matches that got me excited for WrestleDream. This was definitely one of them. We see, Ricochet and Will Ospreay try to do the flippy shit, and Konosuke Takeshita just basically powers through them and beats the shit out of them. He says, no flippy shit here. I'm going to take that international championship. And that's what he does. He takes the international championship from Ospreay and, Ricochet, who's also fighting for the title in this match. We see Don Callis make his interference, which further leads to, again, Takeshita finally claiming the international championship. And then after the match, we see Kyle Fletcher turn on Will Ospreay. So we will be getting a high caliber blood feud between Kyle Fletcher and Will Ospreay. which I think is going to be money. Again, I'm excited to see Dynamite and see how that goes down. And this was a fantastic match. And I'm very happy that Takeshita is now our new AEW International Champion. I was always thinking with this International Championship for like a year and a half at least, like, hey, this is Takeshita's championship to win. When I thought the international title, I thought Takeshita. Then Will Ospreay came along, and I was like, yep, it's perfect for Ospreay, and he won the title. But I feel like this championship win for Konosuke Takeshita is long overdue. When Orange Cassidy was having his super long reign with the international title, I was like, dude, Takeshita's got to beat him for it. It should be on Takeshita. It should have been on Takeshita then. It finally is now. I'm not going to complain too much, and I really hope that Takeshita has the utmost success with this international championship reign, because it's his belt to win and he's won it. It's his belt to defend, and it's his belt to make a name for himself with. Very excited that Takeshita is now finally the international champion of AEW. He deserves it. And this was a freaking awesome match that showed us what the future will look like on AEW Dynamite, especially with Kyle Fletcher and Will Ospreay now entering a big feud. Kyle Fletcher looked freaking jacked, dude. I was like, what did this boy do? It's only been a couple days since I think I've seen him last on AEW Dynamite. Bro looked freaking jacked. He is ready for the spotlight against Will Ospreay, and I'm here for it, man. Go make a name for yourself, Kyle Fletcher. Takeshita, my dog. Keep it going. All right, man. This next segment wasn't a match per se. It was the formal return of Swerve Strickland, who we haven't seen since the last pay-per-view, All Out. So we see him come out, and he is able to confirm that he is medically cleared. It's one of the first things he says. And of course, it doesn't take long before MVP and Shelton Benjamin interrupt the promo. And what this does is this allows Swerve to go back and forth on whether he should join MVP and Shelton Benjamin or if he should stay by the side of Prince Nana. And Swerve, flexing on us with the babyface trait of his, stays with Prince Nana. He also is able to give Shelton Benjamin his flowers, which I really liked. Shelton Benjamin was and still is a badass wrestler. He's definitely gone unnoticed and underrated over the years, but I think about those early Money in the Bank days with WWE when they had Money in the Bank matches at WrestleMania for WrestleMania 21, 22, 23, 24, you name it. Shelton Benjamin was there, and he was always in those matches, and he was always doing a great job. And he was always on SmackDown, if I recall correctly, and he was always doing a great job there. A young Shelton Benjamin was a bad mofo, let me tell you. So seeing Swerve, who is probably the most popular African-American wrestler in the game right now, give Shelton Benjamin his flowers was a good moment. I really liked that. Nonetheless, to close out the segment, things did get a little hostile between Swerve and Shelton Benjamin, and it looks like we're leading to a match between the two, which will probably lead to the unveiling of Bobby Lashley being All Elite. I understand why they didn't want to debut Bobby Lashley on WrestleDream. You know, you could do it on TV, get people excited for TV. And then also what happened in the main event, it wouldn't make sense to have Swerve take a beat down in front of the home crowd. You know, we'll get there. I think that's what Fightful Select or whatever the hell. It's been a rumor that that's the reason they didn't debut Bobby Lashley at WrestleDream. And it's ultimately because they didn't want Swerve to take a beat down in his home state because Danielson was going to in the main event, which we'll get to. Anyway, Swerve Strickland officially returns, which is cool. And it looks like he's going to have a match with Shelton Benjamin, and we'll see where that leads. Okay, let's get into the next match. And this was absolutely an AEW collision match on a pay-per-view, which I didn't exactly appreciate. But nonetheless, if you put that to the side, I can go ahead and say that this was a really good and fun match. I haven't been watching Collision over the past few weeks, I'll fully admit. So this was my first time seeing Hologram in a match live. And I think Hologram's pretty fun to watch. I'll say that. I know Hologram, maybe he looks a little goofy. Maybe a lot of people aren't getting behind him as he's 15-0 or whatever in AEW. This was my first time seeing a Hologram match in AEW. I enjoyed it. he took on the Beast Mortos in a best 2 or 3 falls match. And the Beast Mortos has been holding it down for AEW, man. Probably the most underrated wrestler that AEW has. I see a lot of success in the future for the Beast Mortos on AEW. Nonetheless, man, that success didn't come tonight. Hologram defeated the Beast Mortos in the best 2 or 3 falls match. Hologram took the first fall with a crucifix bomb. Hologram got Fireman Press into the entrance ramp. That looked nasty. A lot of spots on the entrance ramp, but I guess AEW does do that a lot now that I think about it. Hologram, took the second fall, so it was 1-1, and then he got avalanche slammed, which looked pretty crazy, man. Putting the Beast Mortos in there with these flippy dippy luchador guys. I'm not going to call Ricochet a luchador, but Ricochet and the Beast Mortos did have a great match on Dynamite a couple weeks ago. Anywho, you put the Beast Mortos and he operates as a giant that can also fly, and you put him in there against, cruiserweights. I think it's a recipe for success. It almost makes me want to see a AEW Cruiserweight Championship. But there's too many titles, so let me take that back. I'll tell you what. Let's freestyle off the top of the dome here. Not musically, but like with thoughts. What if this Continental Classic in a couple weeks led the winner to being both the international champion and the continental champion, and then you merge those two titles into the AEW Intercontinental Championship, and then they have 3 singles championships on, the main roster or whatever, and then you add the 4th championship as the AEW Cruiserweight Championship. I think 5 championships is too much when it comes to singles one-on-one in AEW, but 4 is fine. They've shown that they can make it work with 4. So if they want to go ahead and merge the International and Continental Championship to the Intercontinental Championship, I think that could be cool, and then introduce the Cruiserweight Championship. Yeah, I'd be there for it. That's just a random thought off the top of the head. This was a solid match. Hologram defeats the Beast Mortos. I think both wrestlers are fantastic. We then get to another TV-esque match, but you got to have Darby Allin on the card because we're in Washington. Hello. So we have Darby Allin defeat Brody King, who he has never pinned before. But this was a solid match. I can't help but think that this was definitely a TV match, but whatever, man. Darby is placed under the steel steps pretty early on as Brody King steps on them and stomps on them. It looks pretty nasty. We see Darby take 2 avalanche German suplexes back to back. Looks pretty crazy. Darby's down to get his ass kicked and go through the pain in his matches. He really does earn his respect in the ring there. And then Darby delivers a pair of coffin drops. And after the match, in defeat, Brody King shakes Darby Allin's hand. Really good showing for Darby Allin in his hometown. Was it pay-per-view worthy? Not really, man. I think Jay White and Hangman was more pay-per-view worthy than this match. But at the end of the day, I can understand because Darby's from the state of Washington. And him and Brody King do have a sleeper feud going. And that was probably the culmination of it there that we saw. So, whatever. I guess I can't complain too much. Next match, and this was a match I looked forward to. I wish it had a bit better of a build. Like most of these matches on the WrestleDream card, I think they were built pretty poorly except for the main event, as previously stated. We see the Young Bucks defend the AEW World Tag Team titles against Private Party. And they really did pull out the stops for Private Party in this match. Like, Private Party looked fantastic. They could have won the tag team titles, and it would have been okay. Can you imagine this match if it actually had a good build, too? This would have been a fantastic match if it had a good build. It just didn't have a good build. Maybe they can continue the build and continue the story and then give Private Party the straps at one of the next pay-per-views. We got 2 more pay-per-views this year from AEW. And if they want to make a long-term feud between the Young Bucks and Private Party and have the Bucks drop the titles to Private Party, I could be down for it. I think it's time to put the belts on Private Party for sure. They just have to build the feud and they have to build the story, lead to a match. If they didn't do that with this first match because they plan to do it later, then I think we're all good. Then I think we're golden, honestly. Let's get into it, though. We see Amazing Red in a promo scene that leads to Private Party's entrance. I guess Amazing Red ended up training Private Party to become the fantastic tag team that they are today. I personally did not know that, but I thought it was really cool to see Amazing Red, and I really liked what they did with this promo scene before the match, showing that maybe it's not always a good time to party, and sometimes you got to put the partying down and pick the hard work up. Hey, I can relate to that, man. I used to party really hard in college. I'm a few years removed from college, and, I'm pretty much all business these days. I don't really party too much. Every once in a while, I have a good drink with my friends or what have you, but I am not the party animal I used to be because I had to look at my life and ask myself what I wanted. And then I continued to work hard and prioritize other things. So I like that they portrayed some of those themes in this promo scene before the match. I can personally relate to the themes. The Young Bucks, had a fantastic match here. Ended up retaining the titles. I would like to see these guys continue to build their feud up, and I would like to see the Young Bucks do the job for Private Party. I would like to see Private Party become AEW World Tag Team Champions sooner rather than later. I think the time is now, and I think you have a little bit of momentum after this match. I think you can schedule a rematch for the next pay-per-view, maybe put a stipulation on it. Sure. And you should see Private Party get these AEW World Tag Team titles soon. If not, it's a blunder. Not going to lie. All right, guys, 2 more matches here. I know I'm on one today. And this was definitely a TV match. I don't really think this should have been on the WrestleDream card. I think they tried, and I think they should learn that this should not be on AEW pay-per-view cards. And that's Mark Briscoe defending the Ring of Honor World Championship against Chris Jericho. You guys know how I feel about Ring of Honor these days, man. I hate to see where it's at. I hate to see it hinder AEW, especially when it comes to the fact that AEW kind of started struggling right when Ring of Honor came on board under Tony Khan's ownership. This was a fine match, but again, it was a TV match. This was an AEW Collision match for sure. We see Mark Briscoe retain, and it was a solid match. Somebody on commentary said that this is the most important match of Mark Briscoe's career. Oh, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. It was fine. It was a TV match. This card had too many TV matches, and it was 4 hours long. Do you see the problem? I understand you got to give the people what they're paying for with each pay-per-view, but I think personally, man, there's just such an abundance of wrestling, and if you're going to put too much filler on one card, it's going to hurt the matches that are worth watching. It's going to hurt the matches that are worth paying for. I'm going to be 3.5 hours deep, ready for the main event, and also drained, not able to appreciate the main event, and this was part of the problem for sure. It was a fine match, guys. It was cool. It was cool. I want to like what Ring of Honor is doing, and I want to like Mark Briscoe's Ring of Honor World Championship reign. In fact, I really do like Mark Briscoe's Ring of Honor World Championship reign. You just have to make the brand mean something. I think I'm going to make another video about Ring of Honor because I seem to talk about it in every AEW related video. I'm going to think long and hard about how to make the Ring of Honor brand mean something in this modern landscape of wrestling, and I'm going to make the video for you, and then we can talk about it. Let's get to the main event, shall we? I've been going 29 minutes. I apologize. I apologize for that. We see Bryan Danielson defend the AEW World Championship against Jon Moxley in what is a fantastic feud. This feud really did lead to me purchasing WrestleDream by itself. Really no other matches on the card except for Takeshita, Ospreay, and Ricochet for the international title. That was, I wasn't going to miss that for the world. And then maybe the Women's World Championship match because I think Mariah May and Willow Nightingale are heavily underrated women's wrestlers today. So those 3 matches, but even the other 2 matches don't come close to what my excitement was for Danielson versus Moxley, AEW World Championship. Fantastic story there. A story years in the making, and potentially Danielson's last match. I was coming into it saying, hey, if Moxley isn't the one to beat Danielson, then I don't know who will beat Danielson anytime soon. Spoiler alert, this was Bryan Danielson's last match. Jon Moxley is our new AEW World Champion. But we did have some cool spots in this match. This was a fantastic match. It lived up to the expectation, undoubtedly. I think I was just, like I said earlier, 3.5 hours deep into this pay-per-view, too many filler matches. I was gassed. I was spent. And I'm upset because I wasn't able to enjoy this main event like I wanted to. And I know I sound like a boo-hoo crybaby bitch right now, complaining because it was a good match. But at the end of the day, hey, man, 4 hours is too damn long, okay? I really hope when these pay-per-views go on to have a discounted price and stream on HBO Max in 2025, I really hope they get away from the 10-match cards, the 4-hour-long pay-per-views. You guys know how I feel about really long wrestling shows, man. I'm like an old man. I fall asleep. I get tired. I get spent. I wanted to like this match, and I did like this match. I just didn't have the energy to appreciate it like I wanted to. And maybe that's a me problem. I'll admit that right now. Maybe that's a me problem, but I do think there is something to be said about 3-hour Raw every week. AEW feeling the need to fill 4 hours on a pay-per-view every month. And they do so with filler if they need to. Like, cut the filler, man. Okay. Let's talk about the match itself, man. We got a pre-match scuffle between the two competitors with the final countdown playing in the background. They love to do that with the final countdown, Bryan Danielson's theme song. I thought it was very fun. I thought it was very cool. Sure. It got me in. I was like, all right, let's get it. I liked it. And then we see Mox hit Danielson with a pile driver onto the commentary desk. Ooh. The table does not break. No, but it looks nasty, you know. It looks rough, but it's Danielson's last match as a full-time wrestler, so he pulled out all the stops. He took the pile driver bump onto the announcer desk, and I'm sure Moxley was happy to deliver it. And then we see, Danielson get his ass kicked a little bit more. He takes a Death Rider, but he kicks out at one. And we have the kick out at one momentum adrenaline spot. I like that spot. Who doesn't like that spot? I'll tell you who doesn't like that spot. Nerds. I'm not saying I'm not a nerd. I'm just talking smack. You got to talk your ish every now and then. All right. We see Mox transition a pile driver into a bulldog choke. And Danielson is done. The ref calls for the bell and what is a MMA-esque finish, as some people like to say. He didn't exactly, do the whole count to 3. It looked like the official saw that Danielson was passed out. Danielson was done. So he just called for the bell. And yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I think Moxley prides himself on evolving what pro wrestling is and evolving what pro wrestling can be. And this finish was a testament to that. He's our new AEW World Champion. And then we get the rest of the Blackpool Combat Club who come to the ring to celebrate. And no, they don't end up celebrating. If this is their idea of celebrating, then there's some sick people. And we already know that about them. Anyway, we get Pac and we get Claudio. They come to the ring. Moxley is the new AEW World Champion. And what they do is they stuff the AEW World Championship in a duffel bag. They got something up their sleeve. I'm excited to see how this reign of terror goes for Jon Moxley. It looks pretty cool. It looks pretty good. Nonetheless, man, they're getting ready to beat up on Bryan Danielson after the match. But Wheeler Yuta and hometown boy Darby Allin save Danielson from a post-match suffocation. Yes, suffocation. They're about to do the thing with the bag again. But it turns out that Yuta is realigning with the Blackpool Combat Club. And he's the one to put the bag over Danielson's head. Crazy. So the AEW World Trios champions are back on the same page as Wheeler Yuta turns heel and joins the BCC once again. The locker room comes out for Danielson to prevent the suffocation, you know, this new and edited version, this new reformed version of the Blackpool Combat Club look like a faction not to be messed with. They look strong, man. Everybody's wearing gold up in there. We got the World Trios champions, Claudio, Pac, and Wheeler Yuta. And then we got the AEW World Champion, Jon Moxley. Everybody's draped in gold. This is going to be the dominant faction going into 2025. And that is also why I could see the Elite dropping all their championships so that AEW can then focus on the Blackpool Combat Club. It was a good match. I'm going to miss Bryan Danielson. He's fantastic. He had a good reign with the AEW World Championship on his way out. Like I said, it's too bad that this was a 4-hour show because I was pretty over it by the time the main event came. And the main event was what I really wanted to see. So I kind of wish maybe I had a little bit more energy to enjoy that main event because I think I was just tired and I just was sick of the show, essentially. I hope things change with Max. Maybe it was just a bad day for me personally. Maybe this show was a lot better than I give it credit for, but I'm trying to be critical of AEW as much as possible because I enjoy AEW. I think AEW has its place in the world of professional wrestling, but I think we as analysts and fans have to be fair and be reasonable with how we view the content that they're putting out. Because they have put out good stories, good matches. They almost always put out good matches. That's really not the problem at all. Every match on this card was awesome. It's just some of the choices, some of the little things that they choose to do that lead to bigger issues, such as lack of structure in the mid card, a poor implementation of Ring of Honor that's been going on for 2 years and some change, fitting too much into one segment. Yeah, I don't even mind the fact that they don't tell stories as intricately as WWE does. They don't have to tell stories the way WWE does. If WWE wants to be fine dining 5-course meal, then AEW can suffice by making themselves a hibachi or buffet. If we're using a food analogy here between WWE and AEW, they can totally be two different things where AEW is more wrestle, less story, and then WWE is the contrary. That's fine. I just think you gotta, if you're gonna sell a pay-per-view, man, you gotta build the matches and then you gotta have less filler on the show. There was too much filler. And ultimately I kind of get it because they've been putting some really big money matches on Dynamite for the past month. And then they also just got out of All In and All Out. So all the stories they've been telling are pretty much exhausted. Right? Like this is a time where they're starting to build new stories that will probably culminate at World's End. So at the end of the day, maybe WrestleDream had too much filler and not enough build by design, because then that will end up being in the benefit of their next 2 upcoming pay-per-views, Full Gear and World's End. That totally makes sense, and that's totally a thing. Yeah. This has been the summary and analysis of AEW WrestleDream. I may not have enjoyed the show, but that's not going to prevent me from being a fan of AEW. It's a shame that we have to talk about the show that has Danielson's last match on it like this. I did want to come on here and say that I loved it, but I'm not going to lie to you guys. I didn't love it. I didn't love it. There were a couple key things that kind of took me out of it a couple times in this show. And it's a shame to say because when you look at the card, you look at the matches, filler aside, poor build aside, it was some good wrestling. But I guess ultimately good wrestling can only take you so far. You still got to put the work in from a creative standpoint and from a pacing standpoint, from a show standpoint. All right, guys, that's it for me. Take care. Look both sides when you cross the street. Be good. Give your mom a kiss on the cheek. I'll talk to you later.